updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. And yes, viewers, I know that you are very much anticipating this interview that we are having here this morning. And we are here at the PDP headquarters in Barataria in Trinidad. And we have sitting right next to me, Mr. Watson Duke, the political leader of the PDP, as well as the assemblyman for Roxborough Argyle. Good morning and welcome to you, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning, Candice, and good morning to Tobago from Trinidad. Yeah.
Yes.
It's nice being here.
And you are quite a busy man. You've been seeing your walkabout.
Yes, indeed.
That's going on in Port of Spain. Because if you don't know by now, Mr. Duke is going to be running for mayor of Port of Spain. Well, he's putting himself forward for mayor of Port of Spain. So I want to start off with that.
Yeah.
Why Port of Spain?
Strategically, Port of Spain is the capital of Trinidad and Tobago. Sometimes, as a Tobagonian, we get confused with the capital. We put Scarborough. But the capital of Trinidad and Tobago is Port of Spain. Port of Spain is also the political capital of the country, the commercial capital of the country, and the administrative capital of the country. Port of Spain is where it's at. And if you want to make a dent on the politics of our country, it's best that you represent yourself in the capital as looking after the people within the capital. That's about almost 40,000 persons within Port of Spain. Mm-hmm. And I think from a strategic point of view, politically, it's the best move as I make my journey towards becoming Prime Minister of this country, because that's the ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm. How does becoming mayor of Port of Spain benefit Tobago?
Well, again, it's the capital of the entire country. And if one governs the capital, then a lot of issues that affects all of the country becomes a talking point. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, you're better positioned to speak to issues on a national level from Port of Spain than from Tobago. When you speak from Tobago, it can come across as almost tribal, as almost just for that particular area. Mm-hmm. But whenever you speak from Port of Spain, even if you're speaking about Tobago, it takes on a more national face, and so the issues will be sorted out. Also, where we have hundreds of persons traversing that busy road from the port into Port of Spain, falls under the control of the mayor. And the mayor could make strong representation, because there are heads of government meetings, etc., once a month, to have a walkover bill there. And you can make representation for Tobago people in the marketplace in Port of Spain. Every day they're coming to Port of Spain, and you can create that type of discussions in public domain. Mm-hmm. From the position of the mayor. If you are the chief secretary, they will not listen to you nationally. They listen to you internally in Tobago. But we need a national voice if we are to address many of the issues that are plaguing us. So I say, if not the Prime Minister, you settle for the mayor for now, and you could begin to give issues in Tobago a national perspective. Mm-hmm.
Now, one of those issues also has to deal with autonomy.
Yes.
And, one of your roles, while you were in that short stint as Deputy Chief Secretary, was to sort of further that advocacy for autonomy. Do you see any place for that happening if you are to be mayor of Port of Spain?
Yes, indeed. Indeed, Tobago's autonomy, or Tobago's right to govern itself in a real way, should be a topic of discussion, but not just for Tobago, because that will be me playing into the hands of the tribalism. We have to now say local government on a whole must represent autonomy for all of the corporations. So in Trinidad, there are 14 corporations, and the point of view as the mayor of Port of Spain, who is the head mayor, the mayor of Port of Spain receives more pay than any other mayor in the country, and he's well positioned beyond the other chairman or CEO or chairman and mayors within the corporations. Mm-hmm. So he is almost the leader of thought and ambition for the others. So we will want to see the local government becomes more real and not just the plaything that they have created it to be. Local government in Trinidad must represent health, must represent education, must represent fires, police, every single thing that moves within the ambit of the governance must be represented by the local government. And so likewise, we are saying the same thing ought to be done for Tobago. Tobago, however, have moved a step further. Tobago has some 33 areas for which it is responsible. However, Tobago cannot make laws, and that's where Tobago is weak. The Port of Spain City Corporation can make laws, or what we call bylaws. When you sit in your executive council and you make decisions or you create a bylaw, that bylaw then goes straight to the president, and that's it. The president signs off on it, and that's it. In Tobago, to make an assembly law, it's a ridiculous, tedious, and onerous process. You have to first debate a bill. The bill then goes to the cabinet. Cabinet then says whether they like the bill or not, and then cabinet then commence the process on your behalf. So it goes through a white paper, white paper, back and forth. And then it goes to the lower house, then the upper house, and then if it's passed, they then send it to the president to give proclamation to it. So it's really ridiculous to see you have more opportunities in Tobago to govern, but less opportunity to make rules. So you're governing without the rules that you make. You have to look to Trinidad to create those rules. So in my position as the mayor, I would want to ensure that we have more autonomy within the local government. And Tobago is a form of local government.
Yes, it is.
It is just called Tobago House of Assembly by that name. But it is a form of local government. The central government is the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Now, Port of Spain has traditionally been very much into the PNM, leaning towards the PNM.
Yes.
And you are just one of many that are trying to change that. Why do you think that you have what it takes to change that political dynamic?
Well, a lot of the youths in Port of Spain would have grown up seeing me and hearing about Watson Duke, because I worked in Port of Spain for almost 13 years as the president of the largest trade union, which is 80,000 persons representing the monthly paid workers, as also the president of a national trade union center, which represents all trade unions in the country at the international labor organizations meeting, etc. So most of those parents or their cousins, one way or the other, would have had some connection with me, either representing them from a collective sense or individually. And beside that, I have been traversing Port of Spain for like about 7 years now, up and down the hills and the valley, meeting the people, seeing their needs. And so when I present myself right now, it's not as a newbie, but as one who has proven himself to be for the people. All right? And so Port of Spain is in dire need of that. Port of Spain is looking for a hero. Port of Spain is looking for a voice. Port of Spain is looking for a man who can fix it, looking for someone who stay roots. I've always stayed roots. When they see me, they see themselves.
Yes.
When they see me, they see themselves. They hear themselves. I don't pretend to speak perfect English, I just speak English. Broken or not, I just speak English. So they're comfortable with me. And the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. When I walk through Port of Spain, the ground rises with me. The ground comes with me. It has never been seen anywhere. I'm not a politician in Port of Spain, but there's a lot of hope. And that's what makes me different. Politicians are dealers of hope. If there is no hope, then as a politician, you are hopeless. The PNM, they are saying they are sick of those stories. Sick of those stories. Now, fundamentally, the PNM from 1956 has never lost Port of Spain.
Yes.
They have never lost Port of Spain. And that's because PNM was the only party. The other party would have always been represented, but they were always a default party. And so the UNC running into Port of Spain is a waste of resources, a waste of time. They are just doing it to say they are doing it. But really and truly, Port of Spain will never go UNC. Even though in 2010, they would have gotten about 4 seats out of the 12 seats. That's the coalition, but it was not the UNC. It was the People's Partnership, where COP got 3 seats, UNC got 1. And it shows that people are likely to change if they believe there is hope. When the coalition came in, there was great hope. There was buoyancy. People believe, like something is going to happen big, and they wanted to be part of that change. They wanted to see it and experience it in their lifetime. However, no sooner than they came in, wow, all lights went out, and it was darkness again, hopelessness. Very much like what's happening in Tobago, right? But we'll get to that.
Yeah,
we have time.
Yes.
We have time. And so the fact that they made those inroads, it's a testimony to me that Port of Spain is not impenetrable. Port of Spain people are not P&M for life. They desire change. And so I bring with me echoes of that change. I've been a change agent. I entered PSA when no one felt that they could have taken the PSA from those who had controlled it. It was under the political thing of P&M, under the face of Jennifer Batiste, but under P&M. I took it. I took it some years ago. Then no one felt like I could have taken Tobago. It was under P&M for 20-something years. They mock, they laugh, but we have taken it. And so now I've come to Trinidad. I'm saying we come for Port of Spain in particular. While we're interested in all other areas, we need Port of Spain. It represents the heartbeat of the P&M. We need to stop the heart of the P&M.
Now, Mr. Duke, you know, your part into politics has not been without its blemishes. And, you know, we had one of the community members in Port of Spain saying that you can't be mayor of Port of Spain. You know, how do you treat with some of that sentiment coming from some of those people that see the controversies and see that as somebody that see that as a negative on your record and a reason why they may not be able to trust you?
Well, I say the greatest stories in life, the greatest movies or autobiographies are those where people would have suffered and they were almost defeated, but for hope, they came back alive. And so Watson Duke and the PDP represents hope. Hence, we have a flaming bullifay in 3 hands. It takes more than one person to hope. There must be one hand, but as you hope, other persons will buy into that hope. And I could say to you, people are buying into the hope that the PDP brings. We are putting people before politics. We are putting people first. If we can't put people first, we have no business in politics. We say to put people first, everything takes care of itself. It's time that the ordinary people be placed first and be made a top priority for Port of Spain.
But Mr. Duke, you also, you know, claim that the PDP is your party. You are the founder and owner.
Of course, I am.
Of the party, and you know, this was one of the reasons why some people within the PDP fell out of favor and they left. So how are you building back that trust or that faith so that people can gravitate to you and support your cause or support your political journey?
They were drawn away by their own lust for power. You know, it was not anything to do with trust. It had to do with a lust for power and a certain swell-mindedness. You know, the victory was too sudden for them. It was too complete, and they begin to have all these ego tripping. And so they are now left to their own devices. I wish them well in their future's endeavor. But let me hasten to say this. What I have done in the PSA and in THA, my public life, cannot be replicated. It cannot be duplicated, but it can be fabricated. You know, people will try to fabricate it, but it cannot be replicated. I mean, it cannot be an exact. It can't be that. So what they are trying to do is to be like a duke. They want to create a party. They want to go independent first. It's the same script, but lame actors. I say again, it is the same script that I've used, but it's their lame actors. So I started as an independent in Tobago, and I morphed into my own party. I create my own party, by the people, of the people, for the people. They are now trying to go independent. And then they're saying they want to go into a party. But they're lame actors. I think Tobago would reject them. If I could just say a little bit on that, not to switch too much,
well,
but you can move back and forth. It's difficult for anybody in this country, Trinidad and Tobago, to form a party and win. Extremely difficult or impossible. You have to become a brand. The person has to become must have a larger than life personality. And I don't see that by any accident. You have to be larger than life. So let's go with Dr. Eric Williams. When he came back, there were few persons with a doctorate. And he went on a scholarship. When he came back, he was a larger than life figure. He made himself one with the people, roll up his sleeve, go to Woodford Square. And obviously, people would be barefoot at that time. You know, not much stuff. Darkness around the place, etc. And so he coming from a first world country back here was a beacon of hope. He created hope among the people. And he led the way. They literally followed him. But what happened? When he died, in the early 80s, 81, around when he died, and George Chambers took over, he lost immediately after. Because the visionary was removed from the vision. So there was a period of darkness. If we were to go also with A&R Robinson, he formed the DSC. He was a larger than life figure. When he came to Tobago, he didn't just come like that. He came as a man who was Deputy Prime Minister, Finance Prime Minister, an educated man. You know, he brought something that wasn't popular. And people gravitated to him. But after he came out of the political realm, competitive politics, what happened? Hocher Charles couldn't win an election. That was the end of it. So it happens like that. And I'm saying to you, those who are trying to form something, I am the larger than life figure, not them. They came in on my bigness, my name, my brand, Spartan, fighters. Tobago needed a fighter. And we projected ourselves as fighter, walking how many miles from Roxport to Scarborough, swimming, doing things, battling for Tobago. We did that, but they are just jellyfish. A bunch of weaklings who feel that they are academically strong, but they're weak. In a day where everyone has degrees, they are weak academically.
Now, Mr. Duke, so I want to know a little bit more about, you know, just the construct of the party itself in terms of, you know, the democracy and that sort of thing, because, you know, we are people that we love democracy within our country.
Yes.
And your party, however, is very much branded by you.
Of course.
The owner and founder of the
That's
PDP.
right.
So is there room for democracy? How does democracy work within that sort of construct?
Well, democracy is always something that can be different in the minds of those who speak of democracy. Democracy does not mean doing what you want, because there are still rules in our society. In every society that preaches democracy, there are still rules one must follow. So there are rules within the party that one must follow, and if you go against the rules, then there's a way to deal with that. But there's democracy in the party in that we allow for anybody to become. Yeah? So,
Even political leader?
of course, I was political leader, but I've allowed Farley to become the Deputy Chief Secretary. And that didn't happen on the day that we brought the votes in. It happened way before that, in 2019. The mission was, as we had a big meeting, I told the people that I'm going to go to Trinidad and fight.
Yes.
And Farley is going to remain in Tobago and become Chief Secretary. And I supervised that process to ensure he become Chief Secretary. I supervised that. And I was the one to move the motion that he become Chief Secretary. And I took a very minuscule position as Deputy Chief Secretary. And I've allowed him. Even when he behaved rude and swell-headed, I stepped back. I didn't stay and fight him. I simply said, let me resign. So he will control all of the executive, and he will be able to lead based on the vision that the people gave to him at the polls, the mandate. When I did that, you see what happened. He became a blind man. He felt that wasn't enough. He wanted to form his own party, right?
Yes.
And you're going to do that sometime, maybe tomorrow. I never at one point in time charged Farley or tried to reprimand him. He was doing a lot of wrong things for a long time. But I never tried to bring it to the public domain and insult him, etc. Right? So we are a decent party. We are a democratic party. We allow for persons to compete. I cannot win an election by myself. I can lead people to victory, but I cannot win an election. I cannot be a government by myself. I could be the head of a government or the head of an executive, but I cannot govern by myself. You need people, you need consultation. The spirit of democracy is rooted in good governance. We're talking transparency. If persons are given the same information I have, would they make the same decision? We're talking about participatory democracy, where persons participate in the decision-making process. Yeah. So in my area of Roxborough, I have these tri-monthly meetings, I would say, or quarterly meetings, where we meet with the public. Anyone will come, and we discuss issues of nature for the people within the electoral district. And we make decisions. We eat, we laugh, we bond. I'm accessible, right? People call me, I respond, I text back, as the case may be. So there is democracy, there is openness, there is transparency, there is participation in my party. They wanted to leave and I leave. You observe that I've not commented on what they are doing, except within the house. And that's because I am not the opposition. So the PNM, who is the opposition, they ought to oppose him. They say, what's the fight for? I say, well, yeah, time and place for that, right? Fall is my student. However, he never took the lesson. He's a failed student. But he's my student nonetheless. And I cannot try to destroy him. I must try to educate him and perhaps exhort him, but not to destroy him. He came from the bowels of the PDP, and that's history. That cannot be changed, you know? But the PNM has to do their work in keeping him honest, keeping him going. When I go to the House to represent my constituency and the people of Tobago, then I will speak on those issues within the confines of the House. But I'm in no street brawl with these people.
No, I mean, as you brought that up, then we have to also deal with the fact that, you know, the THA is different, it's a different body from being in the mayorship, being in the local government here in Trinidad.
Very little difference.
But okay, so how are you going to be able, or what is going to happen to your position as assemblyman for Roxborough Argyle as you are putting yourself forward for mayorship of Port of Spain? Are you going to be able to hold on to both? And then how do you represent both sets of people equally and sufficiently?
Well, there is a graduation exercise that must take place, and I know the people of Tobago would have seen something of that nature already. When I became the Deputy Chief Secretary, I gave up my position as a president of the PSC and all the level of representation that was along those lines. I gave it up. I resigned from my position. I even resigned from my job at WASA. That's something that my wife would have to see and okay, because it's an upward movement, all right, an upward movement. And I became the Deputy Chief Secretary. When I resigned from the Deputy Chief Secretary, that was also a demotion in a sense. Insofar as pay and virtually paid nothing right now, but I enjoyed my job nonetheless. And so we have another graduation exercise coming up again. That's for the mayorship of Port of Spain. When that time comes and I am appointed, and first of all, my party wins the 12 seats, and the day comes, I would have to resign my position as an assemblyman for Argyle Roxborough to be graduated into that school.
So you are not going to resign until?
Of course, until we have won all the seats, I'm not going to resign.
All right, and then in terms of being able to represent the people of Tobago in Roxborough, Argyle Roxborough, how were you able to keep that mandate? How were you able to keep those promises that were made on the campaign trail and make sure that the people are satisfied with your representation?
Well, once we're talking mandate, a mandate is really the responsibility of the executive. Whosoever executive comes in place, the mandate that they offer is really their responsibility to fulfill. So from the moment I delinked myself from the executive, it was no longer my mandate per se, but to hold those who are inside the executive accountable. And I did that religiously on a Monday, what we call, we say, forget what we used to call it, right? But this is Monday evaluation, right? And I would
Mandate Monday.
Yeah, Mandate Mondays, right? Mandate Monday. And we would bring them to task. We say, look, this is what you promised the people, and this is what you are not doing. And when they got fed up of hearing a mandate and they didn't want to keep it, they all resigned and said, look, we are independent. We have no attachment to no mandate. It is God, every man for himself, and God for us all. We don't care about no mandate. We don't care about nothing. We are independent. And now they are going one step further, saying that we are a party. But what is a mandate that was given to that party? There was no mandate given to that party. They are committing fraud. They are simply taking the people of Tobago for imps, for fools. And I hope the people of Tobago would rise up. And I hope also the PNM will do their job, because they have not been doing their job as a opposition, minority council, opposition. They have been playing games with Farley.
No, there recently was a meeting that was held in Roxborough where, you know, a community meeting where the chief secretary was there and members of the executive were there.
Yeah.
You were also present.
I was present,
but
of course.
you did not. You did not make any sort of presentation at that meeting.
No.
Why did you not make that presentation, and what were your views on the proceedings?
I think the people of my constituency, Dallaford, Roxborough, Argyle, I must include Dallaford in it, I think they represented the issues quite well. They were forced to reckon with. They didn't compromise on saying what the issues were. I think the executive, led by Farley at that time, were in shock. They were somewhat disappointed because they got no human praise, no worship, but they were scrubbed, and they were scrubbed bitterly. I couldn't add anything because I simply represent them. But on that day, they took representation to a personal level where they did it on their own. And to me, that's the level of democracy I allow for in my constituency. Let the people speak. Let them give their views out. Yeah? So I commend that, and I didn't say anything because, again, I'm not fighting Farley Augustine. I'm fighting bad governance. I'm fighting totalitarian rule where what I say goes. I'm fighting that. But I want to see is a government that benefits the people, a governance that says to the people, you are entitled to that. Here is this. People going to social services asking for help, and they can't get a food basket in Tobago. People are getting their food card taken away from them, and they need the food card. People can't even get wheelchairs. People still have to line up for long hours and wait to get a doctor in Scarborough. Yeah. It's totally mad. They have not built one single house, and they've been there for a year, spending millions of dollars on the settlements. Yeah? When you ask the kind of money that's spent in works, it is bad spending. When one consider that in Tobago, central government gives $18 million per year for URP/CPEP, and that's for a year. And we have works spending $19 million to build 2 bridges, right, in Scarborough. One asks themselves, who benefited from that? Where did the money go? Did it remain in Tobago, or did it went back in Trinidad? The money went back in Trinidad. That's poor governance. If you want to boost the economy, then you have to have a lot of domestic consumption. The money has to be spent in Tobago. So when the money is spent in Tobago, it remains in Tobago. It is banked there. And so everyone will see an improvement in their lives. A rising tide lifts all boats. However, we have seen these secretaries' life has improved tremendously. Tremendously. But the lives of the ordinary man has not been improved. It has regressed. It has gone back so much so that people has lost hope. And that's the test of a politician.
Yes.
Farley is not creating hope, but instead he's breeding distrust and despair.
Now, while you were in the executive council and some of these decisions were being made because the construction of those roads and so on, that was talked about during that time while you were still there. What was it like? What were your objections, and how did that all play out?
Well, let me say to you this. Executive meetings are confidential meetings, so I wouldn't say, well, this is what happened, that what happened. But let me say this, that the executive meetings are farce, meaning they are fake. They're not real executive meetings. An executive meeting ought to be a meeting of decision making. When you go to an executive meeting, there, you spend 90% of the time renewing person's contract. This person's contract, should we renew it or not? Any problems, anybody? And that's what they do, right? Sending persons on trip. That's what it was, executive meeting. There is no discussion of a list of policies we want to create or put in place for Tobago. Or let's try and enact an assembly law to see how this thing go. They don't do that. It's really little boys and little children talking there really. And it's gip. Lunchtime, all right. And Farley being a school teacher. Oh, look, take all a break now. That's the kind of madness. I mean, it was very nauseating. So I must say I would miss a couple of those executive meetings because I did not want to be a part of something and be a part of it. I don't want to be one with something and be disjointed from it. So most of the time, in fact, all of the time while I was deputy chief, I kept silent. I kept silent. I said nothing, no word, no press conference. I kept silent. I did not even spoke in the house while I was deputy chief secretary. I did not. I did not at all. Even when they had a budget review, I did not say one single word. I was suffering, pain, to see how they would govern and they would lean on their own understanding as if it is a Cub Scout. They lack the intelligence that is required to govern a country. Now, if you lack it, is one thing. You could lean upon those who have it, but they're leaning upon some failures.
Now, Mr. Duke, did you know this before? Did you know this before when you were pulling the team together?
No.
When did you know that they were not good enough?
Well, let me ask you a trick question, right? You are female, right? People never know everything about a female. A man will never know everything about a female. You just marry that woman and you will understand how strong that woman's voice is. Don't leave her shoes there. But when you're liming, okay, I'll move it for you, honey. Don't leave her shoes there, happen. Man asks you cook, you have a slave here or what? Because you're inside now. There's a difference between a work on contract and that worker be made permanent. From the time that worker become permanent, it's a different attitude. Once persons feel settled within themselves, they then begin to show their real selves. And that's the problem is, I never made them uncomfortable. They became comfortable too quick. This is why all of this beautiful talk about Tobago, actually standing up for Tobagonians fall on the wayside. They were not about that. They were about an office. They were about someone calling them Sir Secretary, and everything fell down. Every single thing fell down. When one looked at Terence Baines, who was to be a pastor, a man leading the flock, he would make a calypso on his political leader, right? And to me, speaking things that are untruth. He can be a pastor. He's a plaster. That's who he is. And so people begin to betray what they stood for all the time. I can say, Candace, and Tobago can honestly say, I have been consistent. I promised Tobago two things. I've stuck to that. One, in 2019 at Magdalena, at our open forum for everyone.
Yes.
I said, I am supporting Farley for Chief Secretary, and I'm going to Trinidad to fight. Indeed, I did support Farley as Chief Secretary. When we did not agree, I didn't stay and fight him. I moved away so he can continue as Chief Secretary. He's going to form some clown thing called party tomorrow, and I'm allowing him because as a young man, as a child, he will learn that the difficulty of winning people and sustaining hope in people is a difficult task. It's no easy task. He will learn. So I've never disturbed that. I don't speak negatively about him unless like I'm speaking now or in the house, but I don't concern myself with him. I concern myself with Trinidad and Tobago as one because we have to fix the whole thing. And I have come to Trinidad where I started all over again to fight again. And that's what I'm doing, fighting for my people in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm a fighter. I'm the best fighter there is today in Trinidad and Tobago. There is none better than me. All right, I've always gone into where it was impossible, where defeat was imminent, and I've took victory out of the jaws of defeat. In the PSA, no one could have taken the PSA. I've run the PSA for almost 13 years, and no one came close to beat me. I took the THA from the PNM. No one could have taken the THA. You know, if I had removed my face from that, and if I have not gone out and told a person, Farley is a great man, Farley is a good man, Farley would not have won. That's for certain.
So how do you ensure now that going ahead as you're seeking mayorship of Port of Spain, how do you ensure that the people that you get on your team are not going to betray you like you say the people in Tobago did?
But not the people in Tobago, let's quantify Tobago. Farley did. Farley did, not the people of Tobago. The people of Tobago are still honest people, and they're forthright people, they're straightforward people, and they still desire good governance. However, in Trinidad, I am leading the team now. And whenever I lead something, I lead it properly. As when I was in the PSA, the boat could rock, people could say this, could say that, but I've never ever stopped fighting for the PSA members. I've fought for them, I've gotten more for them. I did my best. Even before I left in 2020, 2021, I would have signed off an agreement with the National Insurance Board for 9% for 3 years. I've read somewhere where the OWTU got 10% for 6 years. I commend them. But I want to say to them, I got 9% for 3 years before I come over to the THA fully. So I signed that off. And all of the other workers were supposed to get that. But the finance minister said, oh, he's not paying that because he'll bust the treasury. I said, look, I don't hear that old talk. You know, I deal with them straight. So I've been a performer, I've been a fighter, and anybody who comes under my charge as mayor, they will have to understand that this is the way we are going, and that's the way we are going straight. But it will always be in consultation with the people. There is no room for star boys under my mayorship, you know. There is no room for that. There is room for leadership by example.
How are you going to rebuild the PDP in Tobago?
I don't know if the PDP is destroyed, you know. I think that I'm giving Farley Augustine some time to show who he is. You know, you have to allow him to show Tobagonians who he is, and that must be done unhindered. If I'm to speak about him every day, that will frustrate him. And he will say, well, he can't think, because every day watching down a truth. So I've stepped aside and I've allowed him and all the imps he has around him, because there are definitely some imps around him. Yeah, I won't even say any name because they're just too much. Some of these imps who love to come on media and talk instead of foolishness that they don't know. Right? I've allowed them to deliver their best for Tobago, and Tobago's looking on. But I'm watching. I'm going to say to you that when I move out of my constituency, a next PDP candidate will replace that. And when the THA elections are called, hopefully they'll be called this year also, we'll be contesting all 15 seats.
Why do you think that the elections will be called this year?
Because there's no way right-thinking Tobagonians, based on how I know them, will sit down and allow Farley and his team, the Jellyfish crew, to continue to play that type of games. What he's doing here is unprecedented, you know. It's totally new. They are trying to experiment with the lives of Tobagonians. They are using Tobagonians as lab rats. They are trying experiments. Who independents have governed Tobago? And when they governed Tobago for, well, the larger part of a year, nothing came out of it. Nothing good came out of it. And then they move from that now to say they're forming a party. Who gave this party a mandate? The elections office, returning officer for elections, would have already returned and said the PDP won the election, and the UNC, and the PNM, which is just like the UNC anyway, the PNM lost the elections. It was 14-1. Yeah, PDP 14, PNM 1. That can't change. So whatever Farley is doing, it's really smoke and mirrors. He can't change that. That goes down on the resume of Watson Duke and the PDP. He's trying to create a name for himself. And I'm saying Tobago will not allow him to play fast and loose with their lives while Ma and Pa still suffer.
Now, I mean, based on what you said, do you think that there will be any success at all coming out of the launch of that new political party tomorrow?
No, if I had my phone here, I will show you where someone messaged me and told me that a particular one of the independents is calling them and asking them to gather some people. They're going to send a free maxi and they're going to provide them with food and juice to come down to the launch tomorrow. They are scraping for people. You were there at the Hyatt when we had the launch of Trinidad and the Marish and Parish came, everybody came. We never charged a cent and there was no high chair or low chair. Sit where you want to sit. That's the kind of governance we have, democracy. You didn't have to have an invite, just come. One vagrant from Port of Spain who identified himself as such the next day. He came and his jersey one is in his bag with the paraphernalia. And he said, look, says the first time I have come to the Hyatt. Many persons was their first time. Also, when we did the same thing in Magdalena, many persons says the first time I've been to Magdalena. I've never been to Magdalena before. And the way you treat me is the way I always wanted to be treated. We believe in putting citizens on a pedestal. Fal is different. He believed in charging citizens. He's saying to them, if you want to come, pay $325 for a jersey. A jersey so expensive? And a Nike jersey or is that Yeezy shoes or something? That's not Yeezy shoes. What is that? $325? He grew up under me. He saw we would have opened ourselves to the public. We fed them for free. The public never had to pay for nothing, not a jersey, nothing. It's free. He's saying, pay to be a part of this. Now they're begging people to come down. We go feed you, we go clothe you, we go give you a car. They already fail. I don't expect anyone to come out there except the few workers who would have on contract who they're frightening because they have taken a lot of techniques from the PNM, a lot of those scare techniques and threatening from the PNM, and say, if you don't come, you lost your work. I expect to see a lot of CPEP workers there, URP workers there, and the likes.
I mean, you made some interesting claims there in terms of, you know, some of the behaviors that you spoke about during the PNM's reign that still exists.
Yes.
Like, could you share some more details?
Well, people are still longing for the PDP. What we promised was to fix things in Tobago. So, for example, we promised the people an ex gratia payment, all right? And there's a payment just because you suffer so long. I explained it to them. Just because we have, Farley has been promising people the ex gratia payment, and up to now we can, every month is next month. That's a PNM trick, where you deceive the people, all right?
Was there a way for that ex gratia payment to be paid? Did you see a way? Did you present a plan?
Of course.
And what was the plan?
You could have simply taken the carnival money at the waste to play carnival in mud. I mean, it wasn't mud mass. It was really carnival. It should have been more than mud. And use that money to pay people. If you paid persons with that money, you would have, every person within the service, which is about 13,000, would have gotten more than $1,000. All right? More than $1,000. So he's playing fast and loose with that. We also promised the people to give them a community fund of $10 million per year. So that's 15 districts, that'll be $150 million. That money should have come from the development budget, which is about $300 million. So you take 150, and there will be development now within the community where there'll be a stir of employment against the unemployed. That was supposed to be done. Farley came to the house, and he's telling us in the house, he wants to give to Tobagonian every district $150,000. $150,000, you know, which is about $14,000 a month to spend. That was mad. And then he jumped on a plane, says he's going to Jamaica to see how their fund is going. That was a waste of trip and waste of paper, say signing memorandum of agreement. That's again a PNM trick. The PNM was big on presentation, but poor on a representation. The PDP, we were supposed to put back the rep into representation, right? Rep into presentation. We were supposed to represent things in a way that synergizes, if I was to use a word like synergizes, or that forms a synergy with the thinking of the people. But he's not doing that. He's not doing that. Tobago was supposed to ensure that the contractors in Tobago are paid, and we breed a new level of contractors. So whenever there's a big contract, at least 50 to 40% or 40 to 50% of that money stays in Tobago. Let's take the two bridges that they built in Scarborough. That was $19 million. It meant that at least about $9 million of that money should have stayed in Tobago, literally stayed. So that money should have walked up into Sansa Sail, walked up into Cutler Hall, walked down into Crown Point, walked around the area. People's lives should have been enhanced. But the money came in and it went out. And Farley is saying to people now that they are trusting work to pay later on. When you do that, you are putting future generations under pressure. You need to spend what you have. You can't spend what you don't have. Everyone knows that. What kind of an easy loan you take in there? You are therefore compromising yourself based on those persons who are giving you a loan, not based on those persons who can do a job and who can benefit the economy. As the Prime Minister said, and I repeat, He said all of the development budget, some $300 million, right, that was given to Tobago before the money reached was sent back into Trinidad with Trinidad contractors. And I'm saying it's madness. We never supported that. We said, bring the Trinidad contractors in, bring the foreign contractors in, but put them to work along your local contractors. Let us have institutional strengthening. And I want the same thing for Port of Spain. Right now, there's some major projects taking place in Port of Spain. And from the moment I become mayor, I govern the whole thing. I govern it. And I'm telling them, it's going to be business unusual. Because I'm going to ensure that all of the work in Port of Spain involves persons from Port of Spain and beyond. There is no way you could come into my town and not employ people of a large nature. To employ no 2 and 3, I don't want no 2 and 3 people. I'm telling you, I'm putting it to you. Because all of those things must be passed by the city.
Yes.
And we have to build a city. You must build a city by creating employment. You must build a city with opportunities. That's why persons want to come to the city. But I say this to you, Candace. In 2000, the population of Port of Spain was about 40,000. In 2010, it dropped down. 4,000 persons left the city. Right? People are leaving Port of Spain. Businesses are leaving Port of Spain because of crime. Just Friday, I was walking Charlotte Street, and I paused at a corner, and I heard a woman bawl out, "Oh God!" So in shock, I look around, and it was a woman and her daughter, and she was holding the neck as this. And I saw a young fella in a vest just running. And when I looked, I said, my God, people are trying to make it here by affecting other people who are trying to make it. The poor is stealing from the poor. My mother always told me, when dog eat dog is a bad situation. So right now, dog eating dog in Port of Spain right now. The poor is robbing from the poor so they could get something to eat. And I face it every day. Port of Spain ought not to be like that. People in Port of Spain ought to be able to change jobs. Because when you come into Port of Spain, which is the administrative capital, the commercial capital, then we have to reflect that. The business people need support, and I'm going to support the business people in every single way as a mayor. And the residents need support, I'm going to support the residents. I'm going to be a mayor on the ground, a jeans and jersey mayor. Yeah?
Now, you have made some connections, international connections with your travels and so on.
Yeah.
How will that help in building Port of Spain?
Well, there are many persons who want to donate grants. They will give grants to local government to boost them. We have to find some of these grants. We must go to New York City and talk to the mayor there. We must go to Paris. We must go to all of these places that needs to go to China, Taiwan, wherever. We must go to these places and we must talk and say, look, we are developing an economy. How can you impact that economy in a way that the economy grows, in a way that people feel safe, in a way that people feel catered for and catered to? So that's a conversation we've started, and I could see room for every single nationality who's already represented in Port of Spain, for the Syrians community, for they to impact upon Port of Spain, for the Chinese community to impact Port of Spain, for the African community, for the Indian community, and the mixed population also to impact Port of Spain. I feel that also the various religious fraternities ought to play a role also in in stabilizing the morality of Port of Spain. I feel we need to extend the meeting of the burgesses to not just the business people, but also even the small business. The small and medium-sized business ought to be part of that. And so we will need to have that meeting on a monthly basis where we have a definite plan as to where we are and where we want to be at the end of a year, and we break it up into every 3 months. So every 3 months we have this large meeting where we cater for these people to come and have a day discussing Port of Spain.
Similar,
even the
similar to Roxborough.
Yeah. Even gangsters also should be part of that meeting too.
And
yeah?
Well, okay.
I'm saying that, no, even the gangsters,
Yes.
and I use the word gangsters very loosely because when I traverse Port of Spain, I don't see gangsters. I see people who are simply trying to find work for their colleagues.
How are you going to turn that around in terms of the crime and just those social ills that are happening right now in Port of Spain, are plaguing Port of Spain? How are you going to turn that around?
Well, people of Port of Spain who have been estranged, and I use the word estranged, meaning who have been separated from Port of Spain and feel as if they're not a part, they need to be relinked to Port of Spain. They need to become shareholders. So I'm calling upon every single person of Port of Spain, the gangsters, so-called community leaders, that the time is coming when you will be a shareholder of Port of Spain. You will be part of the productivity and you will be a beneficiary. Every woman, every boy, every girl, every family. This is Port of Spain, this is our home, and you have to live and thrive there. As the mayor, I will afford that for the people.
Former Prime Minister, Mr. Patrick Manning, was criticized for some of the meetings and stuff like that he held with gang leaders and some of his outreaches.
Yeah.
How are you going to be different from that? And how are you, going to make sure that it doesn't appear the way it appeared for him? How are you going to be different?
Well, Watson Duke and Patrick Manning is two different beings, right? I embody with me a history. I know what it is to be poor. I know what it is to go up with ordinary people. I'm a local, all right? These suits don't make me any sophisticated man. I'm just a local man. And so when the people see me, they see themselves. And so Watson Duke having a meeting with leaders or gang leaders, it's normal. I could tell you, I've been around the block in Port of Spain, all the blocks. I know all the leaders. And they are some of the most respectful people, I'm saying that here, I ever met. I've never heard them cuss obscene language or use threat. I've never seen a firearm brandished, always respect. And when I go, I sit, and I line with them, I engage them. We just talk stupid talk sometimes, nonsense. And they just want to laugh. They just want money. They just want to build themselves, to care for their family. All of them will like to see their generation grow. And they're not into war. But sometimes, in order to remain on top, you have to fight for your dollar. And so fighting for a dollar means you bring more dollar to the guys. As the mayor of Port of Spain, we have to ensure there's a constant flow of dollar to all residents, accessible to all residents who want to work and who want to build their community. So they have a responsibility. The responsibility is to help me keep Port of Spain safe. Help me keep an order in Port of Spain. And of course, many of them are trade people. We are going to ensure that they become part of the building of Port of Spain, because a man who builds a house wouldn't want to tear it down. So they must become part of it, as I said, shareholders in the success of Port of Spain. It's very real. I'm very down to earth. I'm very pragmatic.
All right. And in terms of going back to Roxborough, you presented this massive plan about
the city of Roxborough.
The city of Roxborough. What's happening with that plan? Is that on the back burner now, or
It's not. No government will invest into a country where independents are running it, right?
So you're saying that the talks that you had,
Farley and his team, they are big turn off to any investor in Tobago. They will not invest. They are highly unstable. It amazes me to see how they have disintegrate and degenerate from being a beacon of hope to darkness and despair among the people. I just removed myself from them, and I have left them to continue with their business. He said he's the one boss. He controls things. I said, okay, one boss, control things. And I step aside. But to see how they have lost vision easy, and people have lost hope and trust in them, to me, it's strange. No one will want to talk to them. I could tell you that while I had that vision going on, I was in contact with one of the, I want to say, but someone who was connected to the ruler of Dubai. And they were very much interested. Very, very much interested. We had several meetings on the phone, and they were very much interested in that. I also spoke to persons from America, large corporations, because I'm a man around, right? And they were very much interested. Persons are interested in that type of development. That is a total game changer for Tobago, that city of Roxborough. But again, pride and hubris sometimes causes people to not see that one thing could light up a whole city, a whole country. And they felt it's Watson Duke trying to enthrone himself as a god among the people of Roxborough, and didn't see it as Roxborough is the only place in Tobago, the only city, the only town that has a large amount of state lands available for development. Scarborough does not have a large amount of state lands for development. So trying to develop Scarborough without concessions and the consent of the people is totally failure. It can't happen. However, if we try to develop Roxborough, 80% of the lands in Roxborough are state lands. There's a lot of room to play there, and you can develop into something beautiful that could help all of Tobago.
So, in other words, you know, you were in disagreement with the idea to redevelop redevelop Scarborough.
Well, no, I'm saying the way they've gone about redeveloping Scarborough is wrong, right? Up to now, we can't see a proper plan for Scarborough. It's just a lot of talk and ideas. And then you're developing Scarborough into what? A first world country? Or just put a port there and you feel it's first world? No. If you're going to develop a first world country, one thing must feed into the next. There must be a master plan. How are you going to renovate the entire front of Scarborough? Are you going to acquire it by compulsory acquisition? If so, you will need central government backing. Who we have there? We have nobody in central government. And the money you will have to pay people is going to be a whole heap in sum of money. Our 300 million cannot be used to pay people. That's not enough. So again, it's a failed plan because the minds of these people are still childish. You need to go to an area where you have room to expand, where you have state lands, and you can develop the place. But they do not see it that way. Again, they see it in a way where all of them want to become gods. But I'll tell you something. I've learned one thing, yeah? If you really want to manage the outcome of something, you have to lead it yourself. Never me again put a next man in charge of my ship. Yeah? I'm going to lead my ship myself, because that's the only way you could manage the outcome of something. Put in someone who doesn't share the same vision, you have what we have in Tobago right now, a lost child running the government or the THA.
Now, as we're getting ready to wrap up this conversation, I just want you to address Tobago in a sense. A lot of people were expressed opinions of disappointment about some of the things that happened in recent times, and you know they're very confused, and a lot of them are just looking on. What would you say to those people that are just trying to come to terms as to what happened politically, what happened with the PDP, and then what happened with your part, this new part that you're on?
Well, the PDP is grounded, it's rooted. As you know, the bamboo is hard to be uprooted. You can cut it down, it will shoot again. You can burn it, it will shoot again. The bamboo is one of the more strongest and resilient plants, and so is the PDP. The PDP is not a one-man show, it is led by one man. As you can see, there are 3 hands there, 1 hand higher than the rest, 2 are below. So it's also, and the symbol is a flame. It will always lead the way. And so right now, there are persons who are confused because there's hopelessness in Tobago, particularly because Fale is breeding hopelessness and despair. They are confused. But if you follow me, I am on my path that I told them I'm on. And I'm not coming off that path. I'm very focused. Very, very focused. All jokes aside, Watson Duke is very, very focused meticulously. And so my goal right now is to assume the position of the mayor, and from the mayor become the prime minister, where I'll be able to govern Trinidad and Tobago, because we have nobody making rules for us. We vote for people, but when they go there, they become PNM representatives. They become UNC representatives. What about the representative of the people? Who is echoing the sentiments of the people in Parliament? No one. It's gangs, red versus yellow.
Now, we have been getting some questions, and I want to give you the chance to address it. I mean, you told me something at the start. Well, you told me something at the start, and this is, of course, in relation to Ms. Jackson. You know, people are looking forward to some, at least some thoughts on that. But I want you to give the people a chance, or at least to say where do you stand with that whole situation is now. Yeah.
Ms. Jackson? I call by name, Ms. Jackson.
Not related.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
You cannot blame me for being an attractive black man. All right? And people like a man who's rough and tumble, dresses well, smell well, speak well, and is strong. Because there's a shortage of men today in our society. Men have been emasculated and ridiculed and pushed down, you know? And so when a man is up and is assertive and is going somewhere, a lot of women want to hitchhike. But I don't have room for hitchhikers, right? And she was one of those hitchhikers, right? And I told her straight, I want no relationship with her. None. None whatsoever. I'm a big man, right? And if I like somebody, I like someone. I'm absolutely plain with that. My life is my life, and I love my life. I don't want to be nobody else, no Mandela, no Martin Luther, nobody. I want to be Watson Duke. And I'm proud of Watson Solomon Duke. The good, the bad, the firm and the weak and the strong and the slippery, whatever it is, that's Watson Duke. It's what will make the story of my life. When I get together to pen my book, and I begin to speak about Watson Solomon Duke, a lot of persons are going to gain courage. They will recognize, you know what, I could identify with this. I could relate to this. So I am relatable. I'm not some straight man up there. No, my family love me, my children love me, and I love them to all. So that whole thing about Miss Jackson, and that is not a feature in my life. She has her own issues, she's dealing with them the best way how. But I've told her straight from day one, and I told her at the end, I want no relationship with her. You could know who you like and who you do like, right? Yeah. So I'm not in that game with anybody at all. I'm very serious in that. But what's the joke? I prefer the female sex. That's what I prefer. Right?
And
why you laughing like that? Listen, I prefer. Yeah, but the preference out there, that's my preference. Yeah, but I have friends who, girls like girls, men like men, and that's okay with me. That's their choice. But I like the female sex.
were there any lessons you learned from that whole situation?
Well, I wouldn't say lessons, but I learned people more.
Okay.
Right? That men can be raped. I've learned that. I've learned that the best way to deal with people who you don't want a relationship with is to make it public from day one. Because some women don't know how to stop and when to stop. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Yeah? And I think that you have to make it very public to all and sundry. I don't want you. Everybody here, embarrass them up front. Yeah? Because they will take every opportunity to be smiling with you and sitting next to you and giving people impression that you're into something. But I'm a man of respect and decorum. I mean, I would not go out of my way to publicly embarrass someone. I just take a lot, you know what I mean? I just suffer a lot in silence. And I could suffer. I built it for that kind of way. I'm not one who is here like putting up with that nonsense, you know? I'm not on that. Straight. I like who I like. I Watson Duke. I mean, what there is not to like about Watson Duke? I think everybody gonna like a Duke. You know what I mean? What is not to like? You know? There's nothing with that. But respect. If I say I don't like you, I don't like you. That's my point. Yeah? Let me like who I like. And who like me, and I like them, fine, we're good. But if I don't like you, I don't like you. In that way.
And now, any final words that you want to leave, especially to the people of Port of Spain who are seeking to get their support?
But to the people of Port of Spain, I'm saying when you vote for Watson Duke as mayor, you're voting for a real man, a man who is rough and tumble, a man who's a visionary, a man who's a fighter, a man who will not turn his back on you, but a man who will see you through to the end. And I'm begging you for this opportunity to just represent you this once, and you will see a change. I will be a sneakers, jeans, and jersey mayor, a man of the streets. And if you have no water, that is my problem. If you have problem with lights, that is my problem. Any problem in the city of Port of Spain is my problem. Unemployment is my problem. Health issues, my problem. Because the mayor must have a voice and have some testosterone if he's a man. All right? He must have that. And I'm saying I have that. I possess that. You need someone like me to represent, to be your voice. Thank you, and Tobago. I love all the bad and all the pick me, you know. So love me, you know. Come on, love all the too. Love all the man.
Thank you so much, Mr. Duke. It was a pleasure being
Yeah.
able to speak with you this morning and just to kind of air out a lot of the things that are within the space.
Lovely. Thank you.
All right, viewers, so thank you for locking on. This has been a wonderful time with you this morning. Good morning, Tobago, on the Tobago Updates show. Again, thank you for being with us, and don't worry, we'll be back again tomorrow with some very wonderful conversations as we continue to bring to you some of the best coming out of you. All right, see you tomorrow.
We are people in